Hello, I'm back again for another round of Itchy Tasty. I got 5 games. I kind of themed them this time. I got them all based on the Haunted PS1 demo disc thing. I guess there's a couple new ones that came out, so I downloaded those. I'm doing it also differently this time. I'm playing and recording each individual game separately. So I don't know what I'm getting into this time. The last 2 times I knew everything that was happening as I was recording it because I had played all the games already. This is all new. Yeah, let's get to it. Let's see how the first game goes. Okay, the first game I played was called Loveland or Loveland. This is a interesting little game. It's not really a horror game. It's more kind of like an unsettling, creepy, atmospheric type of horror game. You're apparently like a cop or something, like on a missing persons case, and that I guess leads you to this like tiny little trailer park. And you get there and there's just like a shit ton of frogs just all over the place. And no one's in this trailer park except for this one trailer that you can't enter that seemed super suspicious. You find out that the goal is you have to get to the trailer at the top of this hill on the far side of the park. But there's like 3 locks on it, so you have to get keys to unlock the gate, and then you can and that's essentially the whole game. But as you're exploring each of these trailers, you realize there's like this weird, creepy thing going on with these frogs, and I love that in horror where you kind of like are in the aftermath of something that has happened, and you're seeing the remnants of what's left over. It's always a really good setting for horror, and I have to give this game props because I hate spiders, and I could not finish this game because there is a part that comes up with spiders that I will leave a clip with right here. But yeah, it's worth playing for sure. It's a really, really well-made, short little horror game. It's apparently the prequel to something that's coming out later. It says to be continued at the end. I had to look on YouTube to find out what the ending was because I could not handle that room. So props to Loveland for being one of the first games to actually make me unable to finish it. Maybe I'll come back around to it because I know that none of the spiders attack you. That's what I was terrified of. Yeah, it's a nice little mystery kind of horror. Really recommend it. Probably give it a 7.5, 8 out of... Well, yeah, you know what? On the basis of me not being able to finish it, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. There you go. That was Loveland. Alright, let's see what's next. Alright, and the next game I played was called Moes Body Shop. This was a really short game. Super heavy on the PS1 aesthetics, to the point where I want to say hold back on them a little bit. I grew up in the N64 PS1 era. The graphics were pretty bad, you know, but they weren't this bad. The center of the frame, there's just like this huge, blurry, pixelated just nightmare that's staring at you. And only the worst cheap budget games looked like that. And the warping on some of the walls were just as bad. That's just me being annoyed at graphics. But apart from that, the game itself was kind of eh. It was super short, first of all. Second of all, most of the game's runtime was walking downstairs. In Silent Hill 2, there's one point in particular where you're walking down a set of stairs. I think 2 minutes to walk down it. Metaphorically speaking, there's a whole purpose of the stairs being that long. And in this game, it's just you walking down a long set of stairs with a flashlight, and nothing happens. You kind of see something off in the distance, but the pixels are so blurry that you can't even make out anything that it could be. And nothing happens until there's a section where you have to flip on some generators, where you're being chased in a maze by a monster, and then that's the whole game. I don't really have much else to say about it other than that. I know it was made for another one of those PS1 demo disc things, so I'm not expecting, you know, like a full-fledged game or anything, but I think if I'm going to be honest with my rating, it'd probably be about like a 5 out of 10. It's just okay. Cool. And the next game I played was called Mutated Reality. This was a surprisingly long game for the PS1 demo disc type format. It took me about like an hour. It was pretty unique in the fact that it was a physics-based horror game. which for the type of genre that it comes from is pretty unique. It was weird though, because the physics were very prevalent in the beginning, and then by the end they didn't really matter much at all. It was almost like the developer kind of lost faith in what the engine was built around, which was kind of strange. But I'm honestly kind of glad it did, because I'm not a big fan of physics, especially in a horror game where you have to kind of rely on the physics being dependable, and in this case they were not sometimes. In a game like Half-Life, there was a system that people called crouch jumping, where you would jump, crouch, and it would be kind of like if you were jumping in real life and you brought your legs up. It's a weird input to make on a keyboard, but it makes sense when you think about it. In this game, there is crouch jumping, but it's from a crouched position and jumping, and that's the only time that you would be able to make some jumps that were necessary to progress through the game. And I personally am not a huge fan of that. I'm glad it relied less on them as the game progressed. As far as the game goes, the atmosphere is pretty good. You start out in a forest and you walk towards what seems to be like a mining facility. And you're constantly reading these like weird messages that are warning you not to progress, not to keep going towards this facility, but they're worded in such a way that's like really creepy. And it makes you suspect that you're far off in the distant future and you just like happen to find this building, but it's also from a culture that isn't ours. There's like, the signs are a nice little bit of world building. I really appreciated how uncanny the signs wording was a lot of the times. But you eventually get down to the mine and you start reading notes, which is nothing new. And I always love seeing how horror developers like take settings and make them creepy. Like, a mine is already kind of creepy, but like when they put a spin on it, like the one in this game, where all of the miners are like supernatural urge to just keep digging in this mine, it works out in the game's atmospheric favor, and I appreciated that. It was pretty good. As far as the actual horror goes, there were a couple points where it was pretty creepy. There was one point in particular where I got jump scared really bad by one of the enemies in the game. Oh, God. Really, for as long as the game was, there wasn't a whole lot to it. I feel like it probably could have been cut a little bit shorter, especially as this one is another to be continued, like Loveland was. But yeah, no, I would actually recommend this one. You just kind of have to get past the janky physics. If you can get over that, then I see no reason not to recommend this one. Your opinion may vary on it, but my dislike of the physics kind of brought it down for me a little bit. I'm just going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. But yeah, that was, what was this game called again? Mutated Reality. See you on the next one. And the fourth game I played today was called Psycho Flesh. This again was another really short one, but overall it was pretty cool. It throws you right in the thick of it. You just start the game in like this cavernous hallway made of like flesh, and you walk in a spiral towards like this teeth door, which is a really cool thing, and that's kind of like the whole gimmick of the game, is you're constantly walking on walls. And it's a very simple game. All you have to do is light 3 specific torches, and that's more or less literally the whole game. There are weird creepy spider eye enemies that I think hurt you. I couldn't really tell. I killed them before they tried doing anything, so I don't know. The atmosphere is super oppressive. It's really dense, and like I said, it just throws you right in the thick of it, so you're feeling it from frame 1 until the game ends. But that's quite literally all I can say about it. I would recommend you play this one as well. Despite how short it is, I'll give it a 6.5 out of 10. I do recommend you play it. It's just really, really short. And the last game I played was called The Deep Dark Woods. This game is less a straight up like horror game than it is like a horror shooter. The game opens up, you're playing this girl in what looks like the 1800s, and your mother is teaching you how to shoot a gun. You have to kill a deer, and then later in that night, your mother gets abducted, I'm assuming, and you have to go into the woods and try to find her, and you run into a bunch of creepy cultists along the way, and you have to shoot them. I did not finish this game, unfortunately. I was enjoying it a lot at the very, very beginning, but the gameplay loop just wasn't engaging. The shooting mechanics just felt off. I don't know how to put it. It felt a little loose, and not in a good way. Not in like a good horror kind of loose. It wasn't helpful that the game was centered around being in pitch blackness, looking for however many totems that you needed to find, when you could pretty easily get lost. Like, there's a mechanic where if you hit the tab button, your character will say, "Oh, I haven't been this way," or "This path leads to the fountain, this path leads to the red totem." And even with that little mechanic in it, I still got lost for a good 15 minutes, just wandering back and forth between all these different totems. And by happenstance, I found the correct path that led to the end puzzle, which is where I unfortunately decided to stop. Because the gameplay loop is you're wandering around the woods, you have to set a lantern down when you hear voices of these cultists, which are, yes, very creepy. The first time one came out, I actually got very startled. You shoot the cultist, you pick the lantern back up, and then you just try to keep finding another totem. That's the whole game. The shooting mechanics weren't fun enough to keep me kind of like in the loop, and by the time that I got back to the point where I needed to solve the puzzle that involved all of the totems, I did not want to go back and have to waste all of my ammo, waste all of my time finding the totems again, writing down the colors of each totem. It bummed me out. This game actually kind of bummed me out a little bit. It was kind of a whack one to end on, because the production is for sure there. The Unreal Engine looks great in this kind of like 1940s kind of like a TV aesthetic, but in like full color. The animation's super fluid. The lighting looks really good. Almost everything is there, and it's a bummer that the game itself was pretty boring. If I had to give it a rating, honestly, I would probably give it a 3. Like I said, I didn't even finish it. But yeah, that was the Deep Dark Woods. Alright, and that was the newest Itchy Tasty. This one went this one went by pretty quickly. I don't know if I'm going to keep up the play record as I go. I think I might just do it all at once and then go through the memory bank again. But yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully one of these games piqued your interest. And I'll see you next time. Oh, I don't know if I can do this.